Have you ever felt completely drained from trying to please everyone, only to realize that no one was truly satisfied in the end? Have you noticed that no matter how hard you try, people still expect more from you? You keep striving for acceptance, yet deep inside, you feel more and more invisible. The truth is harsh, but it must be said. Living to please others slowly suffocates your soul from within. And the worst part, many people only realize this too late, after decades of erasing themselves to fit in. This video is not just another motivational message. It's a warning, an invitation to transformation. Because when you stop trying to make everyone happy, that's when your real life finally begins. I'm Adriano, and I've spent over 10 years studying, practicing, and living by the principles of Stoic philosophy. Stoicism taught me that true freedom begins when we let go of our need for approval. Stick with me until the end, because this video could be the turning point you've been waiting for. And if you apply these teachings, you'll realize you don't need to be accepted by everyone. You just need to respect yourself. Have you ever considered how much you sacrifice every day just to avoid upsetting anyone? How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How often did you stay silent to keep the peace? How many times did you swallow your feelings to avoid seeming rude, ungrateful, or difficult? The painful truth is that many people live as ghosts of themselves, fulfilling roles written by others. They're polite, helpful, present, yet inwardly broken, carrying a void that grows little by little. The scariest part is that no one notices, because on the outside you look happy. That's why Epictetus warned clearly, if you want to be loved, love yourself first. It sounds simple, but it's not. When you live to please others, self-respect becomes a forgotten detail. You erase yourself, adapt, squeeze into molds that no longer fit, and still you get criticized. Someone will always say you did too little, that you've changed, that you're strange, selfish. The demands never end. And if you keep trying to meet all those expectations, you'll never find rest, because the need for approval is a bottomless pit. There's something no one told you. The price of always being nice is too high, paid not with money but with exhaustion, anxiety, and loss of identity. Living to please everyone is a slow form of self-destruction, and that's not an exaggeration. Data from the American Psychological Association shows that fear of rejection and weak boundaries are leading causes of emotional burnout. Yes, your inability to say no could be dragging you into a mental breakdown. And that's why Stoicism is so necessary, because it teaches us to look inward, not outward. It reminds us that we only control our decisions, values, and conduct, not other people's opinions. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote, "The soul becomes invincible when it stops caring about what it can't control." Do you feel the power in that? Invincible isn't just a slogan. It's a reality when you stop relying on external approval. Look around you. How many people are smiling, posting, pretending they're okay while crumbling inside? We live in the age of emotional performance, and maybe, just maybe, you're stuck in it too, trying to be everything for everyone. Think of Robin Williams, a genius in comedy who made countless people cry with laughter, yet cried alone inside. He was always the life of the party, the one lifting others up, but few saw his pain. And when someone finally noticed, it was too late. This isn't just a sad story, it's a mirror. Maybe without realizing it, you're also walking toward that same emotional cliff. You smile to please, but you're dying inside. So the practical question is, how do you break out of this? Where do you begin to shift this dynamic that slowly destroys you? The first step is learning to say no. Not a harsh one, but a mature, thoughtful, respectful no. One that protects your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. When someone asks for something that doesn't feel right or possible, say with calm confidence, "I understand, but right now I can't do that." It may feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilty. You might think you're being unkind. But eventually you'll realize that this is self-care. It's not rejection, it's protection. Then take a close look at your routine. Write down everything you do solely out of fear of upsetting others. Messages, conversations, favors, events that drain your soul. Note them all and start letting them go one by one. Because each time you silence yourself to keep others happy, you drift further from your true self. A study from the University of Berkeley found that people who struggle with personal boundaries have significantly lower self-esteem and higher risk of depressive symptoms. In other words, being too nice isn't a virtue, it's disguised poison. And no, you don't need to become cold. You just need to realize that respect begins with self-respect. When you speak with clarity, truth, and firmness, people begin to respect you. Some may walk away, some may say you've changed, and they'll be right. And that's okay, because those who benefited from your silence will be the first to complain about your freedom. You weren't born to be everyone's favorite. You were born to be real. Your inner peace should never depend on someone else's mood. So next time you find yourself trying to please just to avoid tension, remember this. Whoever abandons themselves to keep peace with others is silently declaring war on their own soul. And one day, that war will ask for payment. Don't wait for that day to come. Choose to break free now. Have you noticed how life seems to follow a pre-written script? You're born, grow up, go to school, get a job, marry, have kids, work till retirement. And through all of that, how often do you stop to ask, is this really what I want? Does this path reflect me? Or is it just what others expect of me? That's the trap of expectation, the invisible pressure to be what the world wants to see. And the cruelest part? Most of the time, you don't even realize you're stuck in it. You just keep going, like you're following a map without checking whether it leads to where your heart truly wants to go. That disconnect steals your peace. Stoic philosophy offers a clear answer. Seneca once wrote, "The main cause of unhappiness is trying to live according to other people's idea of what a good life is." And that's what happens. You chase the ideal of happiness shaped by your parents, society, culture, social media, and forget to define what happiness means to you. When you live based on what others expect of you, life starts to lose its spark. Your job no longer fulfills you. Your routine lacks inspiration, and your goals seem meaningless. You begin to feel a quiet sense of failure, even when everything looks fine on the outside. This experience is known as self-alienation. It's the point where you've become so distant from your true self that you don't recognize who you are anymore. And science has already confirmed this reality. A study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who constantly try to meet others' expectations face higher stress, anxiety, and emotional emptiness. The more you shape yourself to fit others' molds, the less whole you feel. Amy Winehouse is one of the most tragic examples of this disconnection. She was a raw, genuine artist who just wanted to sing in her own way. But the market, media, and fans demanded something more sellable and stable. In trying to become who they wanted, she lost herself. Abandoning her truth came at a cost, and sometimes that cost is life itself. How many times have you chosen the sensible path? How often have you buried your dreams because they felt too childish, too risky, or too bold? How many times have you heard, "That won't make money, that's not secure, or that's not for you"? And little by little, you trimmed yourself down until you felt hollow. Stoicism invites you to go in the opposite direction, to dive beneath the surface and ask yourself what truly matters to you, not to impress, but to live honestly. That takes courage. Courage to let others down, to say, "This doesn't represent me," and to follow your own path even if it's less accepted. So where do you start? With silence. Not the passive kind that accepts everything, but the deep kind, where you turn down the noise and ask yourself, what do I really want? What kind of life would get me out of bed with excitement? If no one were watching, what would I be doing right now? Simple questions, but full of clarity. These questions reveal uncomfortable truths, like the fact you might be living someone else's story, and it's only by facing that honestly that change begins. Another vital step: stop comparing yourself. Social media is a curated illusion. People show what they want, not who they are, and that comparison will always make you feel small. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And if your thoughts are full of judgment and comparison, peace will always escape you." You don't need to live by someone else's script or meet expectations that drain you. You need to find what lights you up inside and have the courage to honor it. Some people might not understand. Some may say you've changed, Anatsa, and that's okay because they're not the ones living your life. You are. Remember, the worst kind of failure is to achieve everything and realize none of it was yours. Don't live to perform a role, live to be whole. And if you ever have to disappoint someone, make sure it's never yourself. It's as if we were conditioned from childhood to always be the nice one, the one who gives in, who understands everything, solves every issue, and never says a harsh word. So you swallow your feelings. You tolerate what shouldn't be tolerated. You accept the unacceptable just to keep the peace, avoid losing people, or not be labeled as rude or difficult. But the more you sabotage yourself to preserve harmony, the more disconnected you become from your own dignity, because true harmony can't exist at the expense of your truth. Stoicism doesn't teach us to be aggressive. It teaches us to be firm, and that's essential. Epictetus said, "If someone calls you a donkey and you're not, why take offense?" That simple phrase holds a deep truth. You only suffer from others' judgment when you're fragilely dependent on their approval, and that fragility makes you afraid to stand your ground. What happens when you start accepting everything just to avoid conflict? You begin living inside a bubble of falsehood. You smile when you want to scream, "Enough." You agree while begging for space inside. That mask becomes heavy, because you're no longer yourself but merely a reflection of others' expectations. And believe it, over time, that will make you sick. A study published in the Harvard Business Review found that professionals who avoid conflict and suppress their opinions to keep things pleasant experience more burnout and identity crises. Do you get it? Trying to be the good person all the time is damaging your emotional health, but there's another way, and it begins when you realize that being unpleasant at times is necessary. Today it's not about attacking people, it's about being clear, saying what needs to be said, setting boundaries, looking someone in the eye and calmly saying, "I don't accept this. This doesn't work for me. I will no longer tolerate this behavior." And yes, that takes courage. Some people will pull away, others will say you've changed. And that's okay. They were in your life for convenience, not for truth. Take Keanu Reeves as an example, a quiet actor who walks his own path, avoids scandals, and doesn't need to impress anyone. He declines parties, refuses forced interviews, and lives at his own pace. And what does he get in return? Respect, earned not by pleasing others, but by protecting his integrity. You don't have to become a rebel, but you do have to become someone who respects yourself. And self-respect means having the right to say, "I won't pretend everything's fine when it's not. I won't stay silent to protect the ego of someone who hurts me. I won't lose myself trying to be kind to people who don't value me." Stoicism teaches that the control lies in our response. Seneca said, "Nothing is more worthy of a noble soul than to remain firm in the face of others' opinions." Being firm is not being cold, it's being honest. It's having the courage to be who you are, even if it costs you someone's approval. Start small. Next time someone interrupts you, take a breath and calmly say, "Please let me finish." If someone asks something unfair, say, "I understand your expectation, but this goes beyond what I can give right now." These simple phrases reshape your surroundings with a clear message. I exist, I have limits, I am not invisible. When you begin to express yourself with clarity and conviction, people start seeing you differently. Some may drift away, but others will respect you more, and most importantly, you'll begin to respect yourself. You'll sleep more peacefully, stop replaying arguments in your head, and start to feel whole again. Because respect isn't earned by being nice, it comes from being honest and true to yourself. Have you noticed how afraid we are of coming off as unpleasant? It's like we've been trained since childhood to always be agreeable, understanding, accommodating, and never raise our voice. So you swallow your feelings, put up with what you shouldn't, and accept things that go against your values. All to avoid conflict, to not lose anyone, to not be labeled as rude or difficult. But the more you betray yourself for the sake of peace, the more disconnected you become from your own dignity, because real harmony cannot exist at the expense of your truth. Stoicism doesn't teach us to be aggressive. It teaches us to stand firm. Epictetus once said, "If someone calls you a fool and you're not, why take offense?" That simple line carries deep wisdom. You only suffer from external judgment when your self-worth depends on others' approval, and that dependence weakens your ability to stand your ground. When you begin to accept everything just to please others, you start living in falsehood, smiling when you want to say enough, agreeing when inside you're begging for space. That mask becomes heavy because you no longer live as yourself, but as a reflection of others' expectations. And over time, that slowly eats away at your mental and emotional health. A study published in the Harvard Business Review showed that professionals who avoid conflict and silence their opinions to keep the atmosphere pleasant are more prone to burnout, identity crises, and emotional exhaustion. Do you see it now? Constantly trying to be the nice one is destroying your emotional well-being, but there is another path, realizing that being uncomfortable at times is necessary. It's not about attacking or being harsh. It's about being clear, saying what needs to be said, setting boundaries, and calmly telling someone, "I don't accept this. This doesn't work for me. I will no longer tolerate this behavior." That kind of honesty takes courage. Yes, you'll make people uncomfortable, some will walk away, and some will say you've changed. And that's okay. They were in your life for convenience, not truth. Take Keanu Reeves as an example, an actor who walks a different path from Hollywood's spotlight-driven culture. He avoids forced interviews, turns down flashy events, and lives at his own pace. And the result? Respect. Not from pleasing others, but from protecting his integrity. You don't have to become a rebel, but you do have to become someone who respects themselves. And that means having the strength to say, "I won't pretend everything's fine when it's not. I won't stay silent to protect the ego of someone who hurts me. I won't lose myself just to stay kind to someone who doesn't value me." Stoic philosophy teaches that real power lies in how we respond, not in how others act. As Seneca said, "Nothing is more noble than staying firm in the face of public opinion." Staying firm doesn't mean being cold, it means being sincere. Being true to yourself takes courage, especially when it might cost you someone's approval. Start small. The next time someone interrupts you or crosses a boundary, take a deep breath and calmly say, "Please let me finish speaking." If someone demands something unfair from you, respond with, "I understand what you're hoping for, but this goes beyond what I can offer right now." Simple phrases like these start reshaping the space around you. They send a clear message. I exist, I have limits, I am not invisible. And once you begin to stand firm, people start seeing you differently, not as someone who always says yes, but as someone who has a backbone. Some may drift away, but others will respect you more. And most importantly, you'll start respecting yourself more. You'll sleep better, stop replaying arguments in your head, and feel more whole inside. Respect doesn't come from being nice, it comes from being honest. And while truth can be uncomfortable, it is also the force that sets you free and brings your inner self into alignment. Have you ever asked yourself who you really are when no one's watching? Not who you pretend to be online or at work, but the version of you that remains when you're alone, without a stage, without filters, just silence. In that silence, truth surfaces. That's when you feel whether you're proud of who you're becoming, or if you're merely performing, trapped in the need to uphold a version of yourself that isn't fully real. In Stoic philosophy, this kind of reflection is essential. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal notes, and meant only for himself, "Pause for a moment and ask, am I doing something I'd be ashamed of if someone saw it?" That question rips away the mask. It reminds us that integrity isn't what we show in public. It's what we uphold in private, even in the dark, when no one is clapping or watching. Today we live in a world where appearance outweighs essence. People post smiling selfies, motivational quotes, and dancing videos, but inside they feel anxious, broken, and lost. And the worst part, they know it, they feel it, but they can't stop because they've built an identity that now demands constant upkeep, and that has a cost. A study from the University of Pennsylvania found that high usage of social media focused on self-promotion and comparison is directly linked to increased feelings of loneliness and depression. So the more you try to look like you're doing great, the worse you actually feel. That's why asking "who am I when no one's watching" is so crucial. It breaks the performance loop and forces you into reality. That reality can be painful, but it's the only place where real change begins. Some people can't sit in silence for even 5 minutes because all the voices they suppressed during the day come rushing back. Regret for staying silent when they should have spoken, shame for being fake just to fit in, and it's right there in that discomfort that transformation starts to take root. As Epictetus said, what matters is not what happens to you but how you respond to it, and choosing to respond with truth is the beginning of freedom. The frustration of lacking the courage to be your true self turns into an inner voice, one that, if ignored, slowly becomes a constant emotional burden and deep unease. A powerful example is the influencer Andrew Tate, who built an image of power and success, but whose inner world collapsed under scandals, accusations, and moral decay. He's not the only one, but he symbolizes what happens when someone builds a fake identity to gain approval without nurturing a solid foundation of personal values. It's like a castle made of sand, beautiful from a distance, but it only takes a gust of wind or a moment of truth for it to fall apart. Stoicism teaches us the opposite approach. Begin from within. It doesn't matter what the world thinks of you. What matters is how you see yourself and how you act when no one is watching. Epictetus said, "What defines you is how you behave when no one's watching, not how you perform when the spotlight is on." If you want to live peacefully, start living with integrity. Integrity means your words match your actions and your image reflects your real self, not the version you hope others will believe. It begins with small decisions. If you say you value respect but accept disrespect just to maintain relationships, something isn't right. If you preach authenticity but fear judgment when speaking your truth, it's time for reflection. If you promote mental health yet burn yourself out daily, you need to stop. Daily self-examination is a core part of Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius practiced this by writing his thoughts, reviewing his actions, and questioning his motives, not to be perfect, but to stay in control of himself. You can do the same. Before sleeping, pause for 5 minutes. Don't pick up your phone. Don't run from silence. Ask yourself honestly, what did I do today that made me proud? What did I do that pulled me away from who I want to be? These questions are not to punish you, but to awaken you. Because living in peace with yourself is one of the highest forms of freedom there is. But you'll never reach that peace if you keep performing for the crowd, adjusting to what others want, and betraying your own truth. Do you want to sleep peacefully? Look in the mirror and feel whole? Then start now. Don't change your image, change your choices. Be honest, even when no one's around to clap for you. Because in the end, the only audience that truly matters is your conscience. And it never stops watching. You no longer need to live to please everyone. The day you understand that, and even more the day you apply it, will be the day your real life begins. You'll feel lighter, more grounded, and more authentic. The peace you seek isn't in being accepted, it's in being honest with yourself. And the best time to start that change isn't tomorrow, it's today. Every time you choose to please others at the expense of your truth, you shrink. But every time you choose to be true to who you are, you grow, you get stronger, you become free. If this message made sense to you, the next video on your screen will take you deeper. You'll climb one more step on your journey of Stoic wisdom and become at least 1% better than you are now. Thank you for being here. I'm Adriano. I'll see you in the next video.